Hello, good morning, and welcome to a new week where we are continuing to study for the CISSP from ISC squared. Every week, I try to improve my knowledge of the CBK, the Common Body of Knowledge for the CISSP, so that I can reclaim my fallen title. I used to have a CISSP, then let it lapse, and so I need to retake the exam and am studying along with the knowledge just like everyone else. I know there's been a lot of talk lately about changes to what's in the domains and things, but so much of this is fundamental that it's still great to learn no matter what. Today we're going to be covering the next couple sections, so let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, as always, we are using Quizlet's information. This is official ISC squared information that is out on Quizlet. There's no sign up, though if you want to, it tracks your progress and things. And we're going along with that. I encourage people to answer questions in the chat, and whoever answers the most questions, judged. Usually it's pretty obvious who answers the most questions. Our sponsor, Varonis, will then send them out a Yeti mug. It's pretty cool. I don't know. I have stuff on mine, but you can get your own, whatever you want. It says, I guess mine just says Yeti. I thought it said Varonis. Oh, you know what? I think it's under the sticker. But hey, anyway, that's what we're doing. Let's get to it. Hello, Srimanth in the chat. And we also figured out that we were using the wrong latency before. So it was like a 10-second instead of a 5-second delay. So hopefully it's better today. But if I'm moving on too quick, well, just tell me and I'll be slower. All right, let's get started. A method of sanitization that applies logical techniques to sanitize data in all user-addressable storage locations for protection against simple, non-invasive data recovery techniques, typically applied through the standard read and write commands to the storage device, such as rewriting with a new value or using a menu option to reset the device to the factory state where rewriting is not supported. Method of sanitation, logical techniques. Cleansing, deletion, overwriting. Go with cleanse, clear. Yeah, okay. I used to work for the Navy, and something they had in their data centers was this massive machine. I'd never seen anything like it. It was like the size of like a copy machine, and it had a treadmill that was going down the center like a conveyor belt, and it was for mass deletion of hard drives. So it had these giant magnets in it, and you would just put the hard drive on the end and it would run through and run the magnet over it to wipe everything out on it and then just dump it into a bin at the end. That's how many hard drives they were dealing with. All right, next. Okay, a predetermined set of instructions or procedures that describe how an organization's mission essential functions will be sustained within 12 hours and for up to 30 days as a result of a disaster event before returning to normal, not returning. Hello, unknown. The result before returning to normal operations. Is it Cody behind the screen? No, it's not Cody. It's just me. Mike Buckby, just sitting here. Okay, instructions or procedures. Disaster recovery plan, sustainable operations plan, continuity of operations plan. And this is NIST SP 800-. NIST, never mind. Let's not even look it up. That's too much to deal with on a Monday. Okay, continuity of operations. Hello, all about tube. Okay, to reduce the magnetic flux to virtual zero by applying a reverse magnetizing field, also called demagnetizing. I was going to say degaussing, and this is what that conveyor belt thing did. Yeah, degauss. If anyone's old like me and you used to have the monitors and like you'd hit the button on it on the CRT and go like djunk, that was degaussing as well. Okay. Okay. A method of sanitization that renders target data recovery infeasible using state-of-the-art laboratory techniques and results in the subsequent inability to use the media for storage of data. This is destruction? Destroy. So I think the distinction here, and we talk a lot about this, is the manager mindset. If we were talking actually to another technical person, we'd be like, yeah, it's a hard drive. You just put it through a drill press and you're good. That would be destroying the data so it can't be recovered versus clearing it, which is, RM-RF, and you just wipe it out. Where if you send it off to a data recovery specialist, they could get it back. You could do something else. A lot of times when data is actually overwritten, it's really just marked as being capable of being overwritten, which is a technique to reduce the read-write cycles on the drives, especially for flash storage. Those are really brutal on them and decrease their longevity. So they do stuff like that. So it's very easy to recover data in those cases. Okay, this is a lot of fine print. Oh my gosh. Management policy and procedures used to guide an enterprise response to a major loss of enterprise capability or damage. The DRP, this is data recovery plan, data response plan, disaster recovery plan, probably disaster recovery plan here. Is the second plan needed by the enterprise risk managers and is used when the enterprise must recover for a loss of capability, a written plan for recovering. Okay, so we already talked about the continuity of business, which is the short term, and this is the overall disaster recovery plan. Yeah, DRP. Okay. The documentation of a predetermined set of instructions or procedures to detect, respond to, and limit consequences of a malicious cyber attack against an organization's predetermined respond to incident response plan. Incident response plan. Also, if you want an actual incident response plan, there's a nice article up on Varonis's blog about that I read through the other day. It was good. Okay, magnetic representation of residual information remaining on a magnetic medium after the medium has been cleared. Residual data? Magnetic remnants. Sounds like a romance novel. Magnetic remnants. Okay. Representation of residual information. The actions taken to render data written on media unrecoverable by both ordinary and extraordinary means. This is destruction, destroy, media sanitization. Taking to render data written on media unrecoverable. Yeah, this is one of those tricky ones where I think this is so abstract. This is, covering papers and, whiteboards laying around, like media sanitization, as well as like hard drives and things. Okay. A software component that, when installed, directly modifies files or device settings related to a different software component without changing the version number or release details in the related software component. So some change management item. So patch? That is not my understanding of a patch. Also, no one's answering questions, which is fine because it's Monday and maybe you haven't had enough coffee, but real easy chance to win that mug right now. All right. A software component that, when installed, directly modifies files or settings related to a different software component without changing the version number or release details. So I think this is really focusing around a functionality issue. Like, is this update changing the functionality? Like, is it giving more features? And since it's not, it's a patch, meaning that it only works on the existing functionality. Files or device settings. All right, no new settings. Okay. The systematic notification, identification, deployment, installation, and verification of operating system and application software code revisions. These revisions are known as patches, hot fixes, and service packs. Systematic notification, identification. This is patch management, update management, patch management. Okay. A method of sanitization that applies physical or logical techniques that render target data recovery infeasible using state-of-the-art laboratory techniques. physical or logical techniques. I think data destruction. Didn't we cover this? Purge. Oh gosh. Method of sanitization. It's like Ethan Hawke coming in, taking care of it. Applies physical or logical techniques that render target data recovery infeasible. I guess I don't understand how this is different than data destruction. I mean, like, they both, it just seems like they're synonyms. Okay. A process to render access to target data on the media infeasible for a given level of effort. Clear, purge, damage, and destruct are actions that can be taken to sanitize media. Okay, this is helpful. Like, there's so many CISSP questions that are sort of like onion questions where there's like parts inside parts, and so you need to get this. So under sanitization, which they are considering the highest level conceptual bucket for this, clearing data, it can still be recovered. Purging it, damaging, and destruction sure seem the same to me. Though I think damage and destruction are actually like taking physical actions, but purging is just like not only removing the data, but just like rewriting it over and over again. We'll see. Okay. A method of erasing electronically stored data, cryptographic keys, and credential service providers by altering or deleting the contents of the data storage to prevent recovery. I think this is scrambling? Zeroization. Altering or deleting the contents of the data storage. Okay, zeroization. To remove or eliminate the key from a cryptographic equipment or fill device. D-key, key removal. Zero eyes. What a weird name. Okay. This was a short one. I'm going to go ahead and run through it again just for myself, and then we'll take on the next section as well, which I believe is section 6 on the Quizlet. All right. And let's shuffle these so they aren't in the same order. Okay. Documentation of a predetermined set of instructions or procedures to detect, respond to, and limit consequences of a malicious cyber attack. This is incident response plan. Very good. Remove or eliminate the key from a cryptographic equipment. This is zero eyes. Sanitation that applies physical or logical techniques. The render target. I think this is purge. Physical or logical techniques is the purging. Okay. When there's target data recovery infeasible using state-of-the-art and results in destroy. Recovery in state-of-the-art and results in inability is the media for storage of data. So I'm going to go back to purge. Physical and render target data recovery infeasible. So this is still infeasible, but it doesn't actually destroy the underlying. So I think that's it. So if you put a hard drive through a shredder, it's destroyed. Can't be used for storage anymore. But if you just erase everything off it, it's considered purged, even if it's unrecoverable. So software component, when installed, directly modifies files. This is a patch, which is distinguished from an update. Okay. Guide an enterprise major loss capabilities from period. That's the disaster recovery plan, not the continuity of operations plan. Notification, identification, operating system. Patches, hot fixes. This is patch management. Hoo-hoo, Patch Tuesday. All right. Actions taken to render data written on media unrecoverable. Media sanitization. So this is the global one. All actions taken therein. Okay. Process to render access to target data on media infeasible for a given level of effort. This is destroy, clear, sanitize. Clear, purge, damage, and destruct. Still struggling with that. Okay, a predetermined set of instructions. This is the continuity of operations plan. Okay. Method of erasing electronically stored data, cryptographic keys, and credentials. This is zeroization. To reduce the magnetic flux to virtual zero, this is degaussing. Ryan degaussing. Magnetic representation of residual information after being cleared. This is magnetic remanence. All right. Method of sanitation then provides logical techniques and user addressable storage, standard read-write. This is clearing. So clearing is the least. So it's clearing, purging, destroying, all of which are under sanitization. All right. Pretty good. We rate this set. This set was great. I learned so much. All right. Let's go back to... Oh, this is still the 5. Okay, let's go to ISC squared. And we'll do CISSP. And we just did 5. We did the wrong section. They have a bunch of CISSP ones in here. I think this is the other set. Communication. Security assessment and testing. We did this one last time. I can't wait for this. I love software development. All right, let's try security assessment and testing. All right, I'll make this bigger. Attack surface. Different security testing methods find different vulnerability types. Attack surface. That's not a good definition, but hey, here we go. All right, testing where no internal details of the system implementation are used. I think this is black box testing. Black box testing. This criteria requires insufficient test cases for each condition in a program decision to take on all possible outcomes at least once. It differs from branch coverage only when multiple conditions must be evaluated to reach a decision. It's going to require sufficient, it smells like brute force testing, condition coverage. Not how I would have explained that, but okay. Okay. Performed to simulate the threats that are associated with external adversaries. While the security staff has no knowledge of the covert test, the organization management is fully aware and consents to the test. Simulate the penetration test, covert security testing. The covert test. This criteria requires sufficient test cases for each feasible data flow to be executed at least once. Conditional coverage, data flow coverage. The criteria requires sufficient each feasible. Well, I guess that's sort of self-evident that if you're testing all the different flows of data, which is all the different logical branches, all the if-thens, then you need enough data to actually test them all. Okay. It's going to be the minimum level of coverage for most software products, but decision coverage alone is insufficient for high integrity applications. So I guess this is decision branch coverage, which you're just testing the if-thens of the application. When the system under test is executed and its behavior is observed. Observational dynamic testing. Like they always say, everyone has a test system. It's just oftentimes it's also the production system. Okay, this criteria requires sufficient test cases for all program loops to be executed for 0, 1, 2, and many iterations covering initialization, typical running, and termination boundary conditions. Loop coverage. Okay. A use case from the point of view of an actor hostile to the system under design. The misuse case. Okay. This criteria requires sufficient test cases to exercise all possible combinations of conditions in a program decision. Multi-condition coverage. Test cases to exercise. Okay. Ensures the application can gracefully handle invalid input or unexpected user behavior. Error handling? Negative testing. Overt testing can be used from both internal and external testing. When used from an internal perspective, the bad actor simulated is an employee of the organization. So like an insider threat. The organization's IT staff is made aware of the testing and can assist the assessor in limiting the impact of the test by providing specific guidelines for the test scope and parameters. So this is the opposite of covert testing. This is overt security testing. This criteria requires sufficient test cases for each feasible path, basis path from start to exit of design programs to be executed at least once. This is branch? It's path coverage. Feasible path. Determines that your application works as expected. Testing? Positive testing. This is the negative testing. An approach to web monitoring that aims to capture and analyze every transaction of every user of an application. This is metrics or analytics? Real user monitoring. Approach that aims to capture and analyze every transaction. Okay. This criterion requires sufficient test cases for each program statement to be executed at least once. However, its achievement is insufficient to provide confidence in its statement coverage for each program statement. Analysis of the application source code for finding vulnerabilities without executing. Static analysis? Yeah, static source code analysis. All right. Involves having external agents run scripted transactions against a web application. Integration testing? Synthetic performance monitoring. I would not have considered that a performance issue. Scripted transactions against the web application. Okay. Process by which developers can understand security threats to a system, determine risks from those threats, and establish appropriate mitigations. This is response development, threat modeling. Security threats to a system. Abstract episodes of interaction between a system and its environment. This is testing periods, use cases. Wow, what a convoluted way to say use cases. Abstract episodes of interaction between a system and its environment. Wow. Yeah, that is not how I would define that at all, but okay. All right. A design that allows one to peek inside the box and focuses specifically on using internal knowledge of the software to guide the selection of test data. So this is open box or white box testing. Can you hack with command? No, because we're studying for the CISSP. White box testing instead of black box testing. Nice work. All right, let's start that over. I'm going to shuffle these and let's go through them again. And this time what I'm going to do is more of a study technique where I try to have something that sticks in my mind that's a visual of the term or the concept or what's happening. I encourage other people to do this, but we'll see if it helps me. Determines that your application works as expected. I would say validation testing, but I think this is asking for something else. It's positive testing. Okay. Application works as expected. So none of these are going to make a terrible amount of sense. They only make sense in my own broken and bad brain. But I think of putting a AA battery into a RC car or something that it's positive that, and I want it to go ahead and work. Okay. Involves having external agents run scripted transactions against a web application. All right. So this was a performance monitoring thing, synthetic performance monitoring, which I don't quite think is the right definition, but okay. A process by which developers can understand security threats to a system, determine risks from those threats, and establish appropriate mitigations. So this is threat modeling. Okay. and I guess I didn't say that. I actually think in my mind like almost like a model who's walking down a runway like holding a knife, like a threat model. And she's thinking of all the different things that could be attacking her. Or him, whatever kind of model you want to think of. Okay, overt testing can be used with both internal and external testing. When used from an internal perspective, the bad actor is an employee of the organization, is made aware of the testing, and can assist the assessor in limiting the impact and the test by providing specific guidance. So this is the overt testing. So I don't think we need anything. This just means like you know that it's happening versus the covert, like spy stuff. All right, analysis of the application source code for finding vulnerabilities without executing the application. So this is static source code analysis. My mind, I think of like a static shock, and that like, shocks the system into finding vulnerabilities. Abstract episodes of interaction between a system and its environment. This is use cases, but again, I don't really like the definition on this one. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, so I'm not going to try to remember it this way. Okay, this criteria requires sufficient test cases for all program loops to be executed for 0, 1, 2, and MIDI iterations. This was loop coverage. So we need to think of something evocative for loop coverage. Haha, I'm back. Okay, Kostas, please answer me. Yeah. Yes, you can hack with command. You have our permission. Please do so. Okay. Still studying here. Okay, this criteria requires sufficient testing for 0, 1, 2, and MIDI iterations covering initialization, typical running, and termination. So I'm thinking almost of like, a program or a computer and then just like loops and loops of rope around them, like a lasso. And that's the loop coverage until they're entirely covered. Okay, a design allows them to peek inside the box and focus specifically on using internal knowledge of the software to guide the selection of test data. All right, so this is Whitebox Testing, which I think was like a nice gift you get on Christmas. Like, oh, it's a gift. You can see inside it. It has all this stuff that's easy to use and work with. Versus black box testing, which is like locked away. You can't see it. It's like on the plane, it survives everything, but it's so hard to get into. So white box is easier. A use case from the point of view of an actor hostile to the system under design. So this is negative. Oh, this is the misuse case, not the negative testing. I messed it up. Okay. Use case from the point of view of an actor hostile to the system under design. All right. For whatever reason, I'm thinking of like, an angry actor who's like misanthropic. They hate everything. It's the misuse case for the use case. All right. Perform to simulate the threats that are associated with external adversaries. While the security staff has no knowledge of the covert test, the organization management is fully aware and consents to the test. This is one I missed earlier because I said it was a penetration test, which is maybe... This is normally how these go. But again, I think there's the management mindset to this, which is like a level removed from that, where it's not just a pen test. It could be like any sort of activity. And that's why they're calling this the covert security testing. It's like the type of test that a pen test is that it's covert and that the security staff maybe don't know that it's happening. Though I suppose you could know if a pen test was happening, that it's scheduled. Okay. This criteria requires sufficient test cases for each feasible data flow to be executed at least once. This is data flow testing, data flow coverage. So you need them all, okay? Simply the minimum level of coverage for most software products, but decision coverage alone is insufficient for high integrity. I think this is path? Decision branch coverage. Gosh. Simply a minimum level of coverage for most software products, but decision coverage alone is insufficient for high integrity applications. So I'm going to think of this like a tree with a bunch of branches and sun shining through it, and that it's a small amount of shade it's giving, a minimum level of shade. Okay. An approach to web monitoring that aims to capture and analyze every transaction of every user of a website or application. Okay, this is real user monitoring, RUM. So I'm thinking rum ham from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and capturing every time someone gets rum hand up and floats out to sea. Okay, approach the boomerang that aims to capture rum. Okay. This criteria requires sufficient test cases for each feasible basis path from start to exit of a defined program segment to be executed at least once. Path coverage? Hey, got it right. So I'm thinking like nature paths, walking down, test cases, and we need to find every single one from start to finish. We're walking through like a state park or something. Defined programs going to be executed at least once. Path coverage. I guess just mentally I'm trying to sort out like how these are arranged. And it's almost more from the practical side. I think if someone sat down and said like, okay, we've decided what we need to do is try to get path coverage for this application. We're concerned about its security. What do we need to do for that? Well, we would need to sort out then every path that goes through it. And flipping that around, if we said like, oh, this is something where it's really data dependent, that we have people uploading just massive CSVs or they're pushing in a bunch of data from AWS Redshift or something, that at that point it's a data flow, and so you need data for all the different cases. Okay. When the system under test is executed and its behavior is observed. So this is, I believe, dynamic testing. And so this is in contrast to the static testing. So when the system under test is executed and its behavior is observed. Under test is executed when the application's run. Something executed like someone's being executed with dynamite because it's dynamic. I don't know if these mnemonics are good for anyone else but myself, but I think it helps you remember to have these very evocative images. When the system under test is executed, all right, ensures the application can gracefully handle invalid input or unexpected user behavior. Is this negative? Negative testing. Application can gracefully handle invalid input or unexpected user behavior. This is structured weirdly because I think it needs to be qualified as the test for this. That if you're doing negative testing, if you are ensuring the application can gracefully handle this invalid input. The other way, it doesn't make nearly so much sense. Let's see. Okay. This criterion requires sufficient test cases for each program statement to be executed at least once. However, its achievement is insufficient to provide, this is dynamic statement coverage. Requires sufficient for each program statement to be executed at least once. It's achievement. I wish I knew more of what they actually meant by this. Or like what level it was at. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me as it stands. Oh well, here we go. Different security testing methods find different vulnerability types. Security testing methods. This is attack surface. I believe that's correct. What a weird way of stating it. Different security methods find different vulnerability types. And that's your attack surface. Okay. I don't have a great one for that. This criteria requires sufficient test cases to exercise all possible combinations of conditions in a program decision. Multi-condition coverage. Test cases to exercise all possible combinations of conditions in a program decision. So I'm thinking of like conditions, like medical conditions, and someone that has like a whole bunch of these different things. They have a broken arm, they have a black eye, and that's these conditions together that form the criteria. Multi-conditions. This criteria requires sufficient test cases for each condition to get all possible outcomes. It differs from branch coverage only when multiple conditions must be evaluated. Multi-condition coverage? Just condition coverage. These names are horrible. How is anyone supposed to do this? Okay. Testing where no internal details of a system implementation are used. This is black box, and we think it's very hard to get into versus the white box. All right. We just did that. Cruising through these. Okay. You know what? Let's take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll do the software testing and then probably wrap up early. And I think that might be useful. All right. We'll be right back. Thanks. Hello. It's Mike Buckby. We're back. We're now taking on the next set, which is domain security operations. All right. Domain security operations. Let's do this. Okay, a formal, methodical, comprehensive process for requesting, reviewing, and approving changes to the baseline of the IT environment. I believe this is change management. Yeah, change management. Comprehensive process. All right. A formal for establishing a baseline. Do we not just do that? Okay. Machines that exist on the network but do not contain sensitive or valuable data and are meant to distract and occupy malicious or unauthorized intruders. This is a honeypot. Honeypots. Very good. Thank you, clone. Okay. A solution that monitors the environment and automatically recognizes malicious attempts to gain unauthorized access. Is this a tripwire? That sounds like a management thing they would say. A tripwire? Intrusion detection system that monitors the environment and automatically recognizes malicious attempts to gain unauthorized access. IDS. Yeah. Proud? I wasn't giving enough time. Maybe no one was answering because I wasn't giving enough time to answer questions. Maybe I'll take a drink between questions now. Okay. Okay, a solution that monitors the environment and automatically takes action when it recognizes malicious attempts to gain unauthorized access. So we already said intrusion detection system. IPS. Intrusion prevention system? That's a good guess. All right, let's see. Intrusion prevention system. Good job, Dave. All right. I think Dave is in the lead now for a Yeti mug. So, all right. The practice of having personnel become familiar with multiple positions within the organization as a means to reduce single points of failure and to better detect insider threats. Someone's at my door. Ooh. Sorry, someone was at the front door. The practice of having personal familiar. Redundancy, position switching, position rotation. Anyone have an idea? Job rotation. Okay, job rotation is. All right. The practice of only granting a user the minimal permissions necessary to perform their explicit job function. Oh, Dave had rotation. I was just too quick. It's supposed to be low latency, ultra low latency, but maybe I was lied to about that. Maybe it's super high latency. The practice of only granting a user the minimal permissions necessary. Minimal permissions necessary. Least privilege? Yeah, least privilege. Very good, Dave. All right. Any object that contains data. At this point, I think it's just going to be Dave. Dave contains data. So, also slow typing speed. Yeah, I guess that's true. We need to get the Kahoot or whatever going again. Gaming, ha ha ha. Container. Media. Yeah, I like container better. That is too technical of a term, like data containerization and Docker and everything else. Help you. Okay, well, I think you should get your CISSP and start on a brand new career. It's a lot to take in a stream, but stick around. We'll figure it out. Okay, media, which is the super generic management way to say containers. So we'll give Dave partial credit for that. All right, primarily associated with organizations that assign clearance levels to all users and classification levels to all assets. Restricts users with the same clearance levels from sharing information unless they are working on the same effort. Entails compartmentalization. Users and classification levels. Restricted access. Clearance access. Clearance structure. All right, I'm going to hit it. Need to know. On a need to know basis. All right, James Bond. Sign clearance runs all users. I'm trying to think why this couldn't also be least privilege. Organizations that assign clearance levels to all users and classification. All right. RAID technique. Logical mechanism used to mark striped data, allowing recovery of missing drives by pulling data from adjacent drives. Anyone know the RAID acronym? This is an easy answer. I'm just going to slowly start saying it. And if someone can, hopefully someone can beat me to it still. So R is redundant, array, inexpensive, disks. So I think I won. Parity bits. I got the wrong answer though. I just lose. I should have to give it my Yeti mug. A RAID technique. Parity. Logical mechanism used to mark striped data. I didn't read the question good enough. I'm the one that needs help gaming. Haha. RAID technique. Logical mechanism used to mark parity bits. All right. So I know what parity bits are, which is that, you mark whether or not an individual set of data has been flipped over. All right. An update fix for an IT asset. So we use patch management in the other one. Patch fix for an IT asset. All right. An isolated test environment that simulates the production environment but will not affect production components data. Isolated test environment. Might be staging? Test environment? QA environment? Sandboxing. Isolated. Well, first off, I don't like to put it They made it so active by calling it ING. But an isolated test environment that simulates the production environment. Sandboxing. Okay. Practice of ensuring that no organizational process can be completed by a single person forces collusion as a means to reduce insider threats. It's not multi-factor. That's extreme multi-factor authentication, like something you know, something you have, someone you happen to be hanging out with. The practice of ensuring that no organizational process can be by a single person. Multi-user separation of duties. That is not correct. No, it can be included. Job rotation is better than that. That can't be separation of duties. That's like separating out, like, I do one job, you do this other job. But no, I refuse to believe that's correct. We're just going to move on to the next one. RAID technique, writing a data set across multiple drives. Striping. That's multiple drives. I don't know why they're going so hard for these RAID techniques. It's across multiple drives. Like, yeah, that's what it is. Batteries that provide temporary immediate power during times when utility service is interrupted. I'm gonna see if anyone wants to answer this one. So I'm gonna take a drink, a slow drink. Okay, damn right. Yeah, UPS, very good. Nice work. We are burning through these today. I think we might just wrap up here. So we have one for next week. We may try to do another session this week. But Dave, I think you had the most today, followed up by Pranay. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If I'm not, I apologize. But Dave, if you want to email me, M as Michael, because that's my name, Buckbee, Buckbe at Varonis.com. We'd be happy to ship out a Yeti mug to you. For sure, we'll be streaming next week at the same time, covering more of the CISSP up until I actually pass the exam. Maybe more than that. And just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today, and hope you have a good week. Thanks a lot. Bye.